One of the questions I get asked the most is how do I avoid burnout? Working in gaming and esports and participating in gaming and esports can really burn somebody out. So today on episode 4, we talk about work ethic and burnout.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Once again, I am joined by the man, Ronnie Doss. How are you doing today, Ronnie?
Hey, bud, what's
another
going on
busy day. And, that segues perfectly into our topic for the day. I get asked a lot about burnout, and burnout has been a really hot topic in esports specifically lately. And I think a topic also to talk about is work ethic, and I think they kind of balance each other. So we put together a little outline for our viewers today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about work ethic and burnout. So what do you think? Are you excited for this one, Ronnie?
Yeah, it's again like every topic we've tackled so far, it's so fundamentally important. So right now, I think so many people are dealing with stuff they didn't think they were going to have to deal with. Just hung up the phone with the guy that does our website stuff. He does some marketing stuff for us, and you're just talking about doing. He's like, man, it's hit our business in a way that I'm the principal now of homeschooling because normally I do marketing. Now I'm a principal of a school, basically. And you know what I'm saying? And there's so many things coming at people they didn't expect. And so right now it's easy to feel overwhelmed, man, with all the stuff happening, all the things going on. And that's, that can happen in any industry, but I know in gaming for sure, that's something that's huge. So I'm excited to talk about this. I know it's going to help people and help people to move forward and really have a better experience of what they're doing
I
right
think
now.
the norm for years in gaming and game developers and esports teams and esports companies has been really this mantra of massive amounts of work hours and really just pouring your life into it. And I've definitely done that. But lately, there's been a lot of mental health issues. There's been a lot of people struggling with burnout. So today we're going to try to offer some of our thoughts on the topic and where is the balance between having a good work ethic and not burning out. So let's dive right into it, my friend. I got the outline up. Work ethic and burnout. First pillar for this episode, work ethic, the controllables. Okay. And I was thinking about this before we started the show, and I'm drawing on the screen here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, Ronnie. So over here, you kind of have a continuum, right? On one end of the spectrum, you're just lazy. And I think we all know lazy people in this world, right? Where they talk a lot about what they want to do and they have maybe lofty dreams and ambitions and goals, but when it comes to actually doing stuff, it never happens, right? And then further along the spectrum, you've actually got people, with work ethic, but if you keep going down that spectrum, on the other side of lazy, you kind of have burnout, right? And this is kind of just a real basic spectrum, and I think we could kind of skip past the lazy part of the spectrum, right? People know if you're lazy, you don't put in the work, you don't have due diligence, you don't have discipline, you don't go out and make things happen. That you're not going to rewire your brain, you're not going to find success, you're not going to take care of your family, you're not going to do a lot of these things, right? On the far end is burnout. We're going to get to that in a minute. And in the middle is a healthy work ethic. And I think one of the things on this show we're going to talk about quite often is having balance in your life and maintaining balance. Sometimes you might lean to one side, sometimes you might lean to the other, but the overall summation of your life and of your experience is one of balance. And work ethic is kind of in the middle with that balance. And the first one we have here under work ethic, these are the controllables. First, we have thinking and focusing your thoughts. Let's start there.
Yeah. So, and let me preface this, Jay, because this is important. You can be busy because you're lazy.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So let me tell you,
Yeah.
let me tell you what I mean by that. Right. Like there's And that's right. You're the busybody. There's always a kitten scratching at your door, and you just got to decide which one you're going to feed. Right. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so you can be lazy because you're like, well, I'm always feeding those dang cats. And it's like, well, yeah, but that ain't got nothing to do with where we said we're going. You know what I mean? So busy's like, and I heard somebody say this one time, that busy is a crutch for an unhealed mind. And sometimes we get wounded, right? And like, we don't think we can do something, and we don't attack the thing we know we need to attack. And so we're busy doing all the things that can keep us away from attacking.
Like, it's like that homework assignment you've had all semester, and you know you need to do it, but you find 500 other things to do. It's like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write this paper, I'm gonna knock it out. I'm gonna have work ethic, and then you look at your bookshelf. You're like, maybe I'll rearrange those books instead, or it's like, I haven't vacuumed this really room in a minute. Maybe I'll, it's busy, but you're not really working.
Yeah, dude. It's, in a sense, if we want to look at it that way, it's lazy, right? Because you can do all these things. Like I'm working, like a kid. Let me give you this story. My dad was gonna, and I feel. I'm just be honest. All right. So being transparent, this show is going to be awesome. You're going to learn more about me and you, I hope, than Brett. Let's do it. But like, when I was growing up, my dad was a brick mason. Right. And my dad just worked hard, Jay. I mean, like, he worked it. Right. And there was one time I was going to go to work with him. And on the way to work, we stopped at the store, and they had this whole box of Topps baseball cards. Right, and they didn't normally have a whole box.
Those things are worth tons of money these days.
Whole box,
you have an unopened box.
Dude, and I got tons of them. I'm so rich, right? But anyway, we get the box of cards. Dad's like, yeah, it gets you the box. My dad was so cool, right? And he gets me a box of cards. And then I'm like, this is what I did. I'm like, Dad, my stomach kind of hurts. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, Dad, I don't know if I feel like going to work. And so I went home. Dad, because he's a good guy, Dad takes me home. He's like, okay, if you don't feel like going to work, but whatever. Well, then my mom found out that I didn't go to work because she thought I was just making up me not feeling good, which I probably did.
The dog ate my homework.
You know what I mean? And it was like, well, the dog ate my homework. So I'm busy. Check it out. I'm busy rearranging my new baseball cards, but I'm not doing the work, man, that I could have been doing for the greater good of what was going to make me better. And there's something about that. And in our world right now, but there's so many diversions, so many distractions. Anything at any moment, you can justify Instagram, not getting anything done because you got. Come on, man. Yeah. I gotta find something to post on my Instagram here for take 3 hours, and it's like, no, wait. So I want to preface the conversation that sometimes busy is a form of being lazy, and if we want to rewire our thinking, I think that the controllables is really what we're thinking. And a phrase I want to give this phrase. There's a phrase that I call bouncing your eyes. And you feel so much from what you focus on and what you think about. And if you don't learn to bounce your eyes to the thing that you know you need to get done, if you won't put your focus on that, dude, there's all these other things that you can put your focus on, and it looks good, sounds good. Like, you can really, I heard somebody say one time that on your way to work, you can tell yourself excuses for so long that you start to believe them by the time you get there, right? Like, you make so your thinking is like where you're putting your focus. And if you don't bounce your eyes from all the distractions over to, hey, this is the thing that must happen to get done. And we talked a little about hierarchies. Build the hierarchy that is vitally important. If you don't do that, you'll be amazing at so many things, but never master anything really well. And this the thing you can control. It's like, hey, what am I thinking about right now? Well, I'm thinking about all these different things. Well, what do I need to be thinking about? Well, I need to think about that. Bounce your focus to that. And when you get your thinking in alignment, man, and you can hold your focus, people say you just need to be more positive. I don't think you need to be more positive. I think you just need a positive focus.
What's the work to be done? Focus on that. And then, don't get distracted and end up busy, which is kind of a fruitless endeavor. You got to focus on what you need to get done. You got a deliverable at work. You got practice. You got to do whatever it is. Your mind and the environment around you is going to come up with 50 other things you could be doing at that moment that oftentimes look, a little nicer than doing the actual work. But work ethic is doing what you need to do, and you need to focus your thoughts on what do I need to be doing right now, not get distracted by all the noise.
Yeah, noise. Here's my phrase. You guys will like this. Noise destroys, and it destroys your focus. The problem with it is we got so much noise. like noise from family, noise from the phone ringing, noise from email dings, noise from, social media. Somebody tagged you, somebody did the whatever. It's like wonderful. All those things are these really, really enticing distractions, and they're still distractions. Like you can dress it up. When we say you can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig, it doesn't matter. You can make it sound as good as you want, but it's an excuse, and excuses always sound best to the person that's making them. Like, so just know if you have a job and you got a deliverable and you come up with an excuse, it's going to sound good to you, but the person that's there to hold you accountable, that's the point person or the manager that's asking you for the yes or the no that you delivered, like they don't want to hear the excuse. Like it might sound good to you, but all they're hearing is like this wah, 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 like what in the hell are you talking? That's how it is in the world, man. And there's so many people out there, so many people that are talking a good game, man. I mean, more people that can talk a good game. Like, I could do that. Ain't no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, nah. And so thinking, big part of it, man, just getting control of where you're putting your focus and practicing it, man. Like practicing your focus. You don't get better at something you're not willing to practice at. You got to practice more, better focus. If you practice it, your thinking starts to follow you set these neuro pathways in your brain. You're rewiring your brain through practice, just like practicing something on a game. It's like once you've seen it a little bit, you know it, you start doing the same with your thinking. You're like, wait a minute, that's not going to work. This could work. And you practice that. Next thing you know, it becomes kind of a second nature for you. And so thinking is such a huge part. It's almost like goes without saying that it's so important, but I think you need to understand, what it can do for us.
And then next is we're talking about the controllables. You want to have a work ethic. These are the things you can control. You can control your thinking. You can focus your thoughts. The second one is attitude. In episode 1, we did a whole episode about attitude, fixing your attitude, improving, upgrading your attitude. So if you haven't seen episode 1, definitely go back and check that out. When it comes to work ethic, Ronnie, real quick, why is attitude important?
Your attitude towards the work ethic. Like it's hard to really do something great that you're not passionate about. Right. And so, you've heard me talk, John Wooden. I mean, he's like the legendary coach, right? He's one of them. But in sports, he talked about that if you do something without passion, it becomes like it's begrudging to have to do it. And so the mindset part of this for work ethic, it's just so unbelievably important to develop the right kind of an attitude towards what you're doing and be excited about what you're doing. Because here's the one thing that I just read this twice this past week from our last show, and it was 2 different perspectives from 2 different people. They said that there's somebody out there right now that would kill to have your job. The job you're complaining about, somebody wants it. Like somebody would die for it. And I think to be reminded of that is like so unbelievably important, because it fuels an attitude where if you're passionate, you're going to pay attention to little details. And when you pay attention to small things, big things happen. Everybody wants the big thing right now to happen. Like I want the big break. I want the promotion. And it's like, listen, you don't get promoted to the next level until you're overqualified with this one. And that means that you do the small things well with passion and excitement. That's all attitude. And if you can't get excited about what you're doing, if you can't, and like you're trying to do the work, then maybe that's a sign that you're in the wrong field. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to stay locked on to one thing just because that's what you thought you were doing back then. Give yourself permission to go, hey, maybe I was wrong, or maybe I was right up until now, but now this has to change because I'm just not passionate and I can't stir up the passion for it. That's all attitude stuff, man. That's all attitude. But as you work through some of the times when it's challenging and there's difficulty, you're refining your attitude, man. Your trial by fire, it does something to you. And, I think for many of us, there's so many exciting things going on around us, like so many lights and sounds and colors and woo, look at this. It's like easy to be excited about a bunch of crap, but it's like tougher to get excited sometimes about the work. And the work is going to be you know what I'm saying? The work is what's going to be what separates anybody listening to this from somebody that's a wannabe. It's the work. And if you won't do it, you can't bitch about results.
That's the actions, right? That's our next bullet point. Actions. You control.
That's it. Actions. You can't that's it. You control what you do. At our gym, it says it on the wall. You're responsible for the effort. Like the gym is responsible to put nice equipment in there, but you're responsible for the effort. You know what I mean? And so nobody else can do it for you. And so it to me, the thinking part of it, developing the right attitude, and then being willing to act on it. Like you can sit around and tell me
Right.
how positive you are all day long, but I'm like, okay, it's wonderful. You're positive. You got positive thinking, but you got a great dream. Wonderful. Tell me about your work ethic. I want to know what it looks like. Like if I were to follow you around or I were to model your work ethic and just take it to my industry, do you think that if I modeled your work ethic and put it in my industry, I was going to be successful? Because if not, then maybe you need to change
Right.
your work ethic. Maybe you need to step it up with some of your action. And so I have these
Please
rules.
do.
Can I give you these rules real quick, Jay? So here's my rules for action. And these have helped me, not perfect at them, but I tell you, they've helped me. One rule for me is that I always do more.
There we go.
than is
You're on to the next
anticipated.
bullet point,
And
man.
what
This
that
is
means
great.
is
You're just rolling.
Dude, my mind, it's like it's
Here we
amazing.
go.
What's up here? But like, dude, I do more than is anticipated. And what that means is in each moment, I may not expect something to happen, but I'll be spontaneous enough to maximize that moment. And so I'll jump in and go, hey, I got a free moment here. What could I do to bring some excitement to this moment? Like, what could I do to bring something different? Because if you keep doing boring things,
Right.
you're going to be bored. And so maximize the time. So like tomorrow night's Friday night. Guess what I'm going to do? My wife and I, we're going on a date night because we do date nights. Why? Because I'm not trying to be roommates with my wife. I want to have a marriage. I want it to be exciting and passionate and fun. I'm spontaneous. I do more than is anticipated. I then do more as expected. Like if you give me a job description, Jay, anybody listening to this, let me tell you, this might be the best thing you hear from this episode. There's going to be some other great stuff, but let's just please hear this. If you'll always do more than is expected, you'll develop an excellent spirit. That's what I've always learned. If you do more than is expected, and when people see that, like coming from the airport, dude, last week we get in the car, there's nice water bottles in the back of the limo they picked up. Not a limo, it's a SUV, big SUV from a family, but there's little snacks in the back and some mints and some water. You know, all the guy had to do was pick us up, but he put some little nice things in the back. He did a little more than was expected. And you know, that's what I remembered. So of course I'm going to call them again because I know they pay attention to little small details. Do more than is expected. And then our third rule on action, bud, is that I always do more than I think I can do. And that is like working out, just one more rep. If I can push myself just a little more, then it becomes easier to do one more rep. Then I'm pushing to do 2 more reps, then whatever. If I write, I can always write a little more than I think I can do. If I drill down on a thought and I think, well, I know everything I need to know about this word or this idea, let me squeeze it just a little bit more and see what I can find. And it's amazing, man. Like you write 3 things down on a list and you push yourself to go, let me find one more thing. You start finding some of the richer things further down the list. I always do more than I think I can do. And I promise you over time, it's made me better in anything that I wanted to work on. And I'm by no means perfect at all, but these have been some guideposts for action that have really helped me. They really
You're on
have.
fire, man. I'm just sitting back and enjoying the ride. I got to tell you.
Hey, man, it's Thursday, bro. We're getting close to the weekend, baby.
Let's go. So again, we're talking about work ethic, the controllables. And the next bullet point on this, we touch on in this show quite often, and that's discipline. Do what you need to do. Doesn't matter how you feel. Now, feel doesn't mean if you're sick or you got something legit, right? I've found, quite frankly, and I hope I don't offend anybody, in this generation, and specifically in the gaming culture, in which I'm happy to work for many years, people are too worried about how they feel. Straight up. Like, well, I know I should practice, but I don't really feel like it, so I'll just be on Instagram. I know I should go jogging or whatever, but I just don't, I was up late. I just don't feel like it, so I'm going to go watch Netflix. How you feel dictates the actions and the decisions of people, in my humble opinion, far too much. Discipline, one way to describe it, is doing what you need to do. I think one of the best marketing slogans in the history of the world, quite frankly, is the Nike. Just do it. Just do it.
And it didn't say just think. It didn't say just think about it.
You need to study. Do it. You need to get to the gym because that's part of your plan. You know what's good for you. Do it. Do what you need to do. That's a huge part of work ethic and discipline. All right. Thanks for letting me pipe up for a minute, Ronnie. You take it, man. I was going to hang out.
Dude, I loved it. But listen, can we tell you this? Like, in religious scripture, it's funny. If you look in the Bible, the good book, let's say, there's in the New Testament, the New Testament starts Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, right? Before they call them the Synoptic Gospels. Then you go into the next book. The next book is called Acts. It's not called thoughts. It's not called feelings. It's called acts. It means what do they do? Like they got all this information. What do you do? Information without assimilation is useless. You can get a lot of information, and if you don't use it, you'll start to resent or have feelings toward positive stuff. Like you start to resist positive action because you're like, well, if I did the positive action today when I didn't feel like it, that would prove to me that other days when I didn't feel like it, I could still do some action. And we don't want that. So if I don't feel good, I just don't take action, which is such a cop out. It's such a cop out. If I worked out only when I felt like it, dude, I would be so healthy. I ate good only when I felt like it.
100%, man. We're not getting any young. We were talking about this earlier. We're not getting any younger. And frankly, if I only worked out when I felt like it, it might be once or twice a month. It's just like,
dude, that'd be one more time.
Most of the time, I get my old butt off the couch and go to the gym. I don't feel like doing it. I've decided that it's a part of my life. It's part of living a balanced life. It's something I need to do. So I just do it. And a lot of days, even after all these years of practicing this discipline, I still argue with myself and I'm just tired, man. And I'm just, some days I feel a little burned out. We'll get there, and I go and I do it. Like, of course, if I'm sick and I'm throwing up or whatever, that's not how we mean by how you feel. That's different. If you're injured, of course, that's a feeling you probably want to pay attention to and be smart. But in general, disciplines, doing what you need to do. Any final thoughts on the topic of work ethic?
Let me say this about work ethic, dude. All the people, everyone that became great in whatever the field was, they had a work ethic. Now they look different, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. The work ethic, it showed up differently. Like some people are really good at grinding at things that they have known for so long that may be causing them to be obsolete. So not be willing to innovate. So you have to have some work ethic towards some innovation and doing things a little differently than you used to do it, versus just beating your head against the wall. Because some people think, oh, it's just so hard, I'm doing the work. But it's like, nah, you're working hard, but you're not really working smart. Work ethic needs to be both. That you're willing to work and do something a little different, stretch, push the envelope a little bit more, and dial down on some of that, versus just, this is how we've always done it. And it's like, one of the analogies that I heard was like the printing press. Like it's starting to become, obsolete in a way, because there's so much digital stuff going on. And it's like if the company spent so much of their energy working to make the printing press just a little bit better, and they're like, we're working so hard at that. But it's like, what you're working hard at is really becoming obsolete. You're delaying obsolescence by working hard at things that don't need to be worked hard at. And so understanding that when you know the things to do, and if you feel that you need to be stretching a bit and working at that, even though it may look different to other people, like authenticity and doing things creatively and being somebody who's innovative. Like if you aren't taught and you don't work at being more authentic, you just become like a really useful sheep.
And you got to be accountable,
to use
right?
You. And so you got to work hard at that. You're accountable to working different and doing different, man.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So
great.
Yeah.
We touched on work ethic. Now we want to get kind of to the larger part of the show. And it's a hot button topic in esports, and for good reason. A lot of people have struggled. Their mental health has struggled. Their happiness, their joy, have really struggled. So this is something I was excited to talk with Ronnie about. This has been a request from a viewer that we talk about. We're going to get into burnout. So we know life is kind of on a spectrum. You got laziness on one end, you got burnout on the other. Work ethic, and having a good work ethic and having discipline is kind of the goal. It's a balanced life. But let's jump right in here to avoiding burnout, and it's subtitled "The Balanced Life." I've talked about this before on my stream, and I've talked about it in different situations, and that is the fact that to have a fulfilling life, you need to have balance, right? Spiritual balance, physical, your body, mental, emotional, relational. You have to have balance. And what we see time and time again is what are the root causes of burnout and then the associated problems that come from burnout, whether it's depression or anxiety or a lack of joy, whatever it is because the person has lost balance. Well, why are you burned out? Well, I'm working 110 hours a week. Okay, well, let's start there, right? You have to have a balanced, well-rounded life. Sometimes, say final exams, you're going to be putting a lot more time in at school than, maybe you're a little unbalanced for the moment. If you're on vacation, you're putting a little more time into relaxation and just laying around taking naps. You're a little unbalanced for the moment, but the totality of your life, as you build it, needs to be intentionally built to be a balanced life. Whether it's spiritual or your healthy relationships, are you challenging yourself mentally? Are you getting exercise? Are you eating right? Are you paying attention to your emotional health? Are you asking for support? Are you baking in creative time? Go ahead and talk a little bit about that, Ronnie. I think that's really important.
As people tend to get a little older, this has been my experience, people become frustrated because they don't think that they've found balance. It's like this phrase.
Like an Easter egg.
Like you find it. I promise it's an Easter egg. It's tucked over behind the go find it. You don't find it. Like it is nothing to find, because what balance is to one person may not necessarily look the same as someone else, right? Because like before I had kids, like we have 2 kids now, right? Like in homeschooling them right now as we've done, but like that throws another element into things that must be balanced. Like you have to, and I have to balance my relationship with both my daughters. It's like, I don't just go treat one of the daughters amazing and then the other one gets the leftovers. It doesn't work that way. There has to be a balanced approach to it. It has to be a balanced approach to my relationship with my wife. Has to have some balance in the approach to the rest of my family. Like there's balance. You create it. It is not found. And so if you ever hear yourself saying, I got to find some balance. No. What you need to be saying is, what can I do to create more balance? And when you identify that and you have just a little bit of clarity, man, that can give you this starting block to move towards something better. And this phrase I wrote out here is that you have to give yourself permission to see the day as a starting block versus a finish line. Because a lot of times, like we just, we think we're supposed to be so much further than where we are. And I think we get frustrated with that and we project ourselves out and we're not there. And it's like, man, well, I'm not there. So there's no way I'm not balanced. But it's like, okay, well, you might not be where you want to be, but what can you do right now with what you have to create some balance? And do something with that. Like it's small steps, man. I've found that you can change anything in your life with some small steps. Like if you are willing to change some things with small steps, like you don't crash into the rocks as often as you might if you were only waiting until there was some big event for you to ever change. Like if you're open to just changing a bit and taking some small steps, you can create something awesome. And so here's my little quote on it. You guys might like it. You know me, I drop quotes like
drop it.
I drop quotes, man. Like I drop rhymes. I'm like the Eminem of leadership development.
Do it. Dropping rhymes. Go.
Eminem. I don't know. Machine. Here it is. We need more curiosity than arrogance. And you're so arrogant when you think that you already know how it's got to be and that you're not willing to make any adjustments. Like this is the way it's got to be for me to be successful. And it's like, well, how's that working so far? Because if it's not working and you don't feel good, maybe you could go, hey, I'm approaching this thing incorrectly. And the willingness to be a little more curious and ask yourself a little better question about what could I do a little different right now, and then be willing to do it. That's a great starting point to build something
100%.
better, Jason. And more, listen, it's the old saying, bad doesn't get better longer. So if you keep doing a bad thing longer, it doesn't make it better. It just a lot of times get worse. If you find yourself in a hole, first thing you got to do is you got to stop digging, right? So I got more, but let's keep moving. I know you got your
our pillars, man. I'm trying to keep us on course so we don't have 5-hour episodes, Otherwise, we'll just be going on and on, So we're talking about avoiding burnout. We're talking about avoiding burnout, the balanced life. The next sub pillar here is honor and betrayal. And this one is straight from Ronnie. For sure. Honor your higher thoughts. I learned. So begs the question, what are higher thoughts? Betraying your higher thoughts means you always end up justifying your actions. So if we're talking about avoiding burnout, I'm sure people watching right now are like, honor and betrayal. Honor your higher thoughts. What the hell does that have to do with burnout? Go.
Yeah. So how many, Jason, have you ever had the feeling that, you should call your mom.
I do.
Call your dad.
I
Or like you
do.
were working hard and wait a minute, hold up. And you're working hard at the office and you're like, I need to call my wife. Like, you know, and you're like, I know that's what I should do. That's a higher thought. That's something that you're clear that you know you should do. Like you got this junk food sitting in front of you and you have this thought that's saying, you don't need to be eating that. And you know when it's true, right? When it's a real higher thought, it's from a better it's our highest self. And I think that that's what we're always working towards in the rewiring, is becoming a better version of ourselves with a broader view of what's possible for us and living that out. Because if you, Mike Krzyzewski, you know, Coach K, Duke, he had this great quote. He said, never be so focused that you become one-dimensional. And it's like one-dimensional is, no, this is what I'm going to do no matter what. And you don't listen to sometimes the higher thought going, hey, you might need to push that food back. Hey, maybe you need to check in with your mom or your dad. Hey, maybe you need to call your spouse. Hey, maybe you need to exercise a little bit today, whatever. When you betray that thought, well, let me say what happens when you honor it. When you have that thought and you honor it, guess what you do, Jason?
Right.
You do it. You just do it. If I have a thought like, hey, you need to call my spouse, then I pick up my phone and call.
Or hey, maybe I should leave work a little bit early, you know, and go spend some time with my wife and kids, or husband and kids, or you know, hey, you know, maybe instead of going to the movie tonight, I should study because I've got this test and I'm not 100%. You know, I think it's really easy to identify what higher thought is, because usually when those thoughts come, you're like, damn, I wish I hadn't thought of that. Like, come on, man. Like, let me tell you this. I hadn't thought, like, maybe I should do this thing, because now I got a decision to make, right?
I know. It would have been so much better to have not known. And now that I know, I'm accountable. The higher thought. Now, here's the thing about the higher thought. Let me tell you, this isn't just like Ronnie saying, oh, you should honor your higher thoughts. But there's a book called Power versus Force. Don't get it right now. Nobody on here, don't order the book. It's a rough read. It's a lot. But in there, he talks about kinesiology testing, which is where you get stronger when you have a positive thought about something that's true for you. And they do this with, like, veterinarians will do this type of kinesiology testing on animals to find out what they need and how they're sick. You can do it with humans to find out if there's something that's out in their body. And so it's really, dude, it's unbelievable. Guy, David Hawkins, Power versus Force anyway. But he talks about when you're in alignment with the higher thought, the best thought, right? Then you know what to do. You're stronger. And so when you know that thought and you get it, you honor it and you do it. And there's a book. This is how my mind works, Jay. I guess that's why I'm on here. But there's a book, Mel Robbins, called The 5-Second Rule. And she said she watched a NASA launch and the rocket took off. And she said she was depressed in the bed. And she just happened to see this NASA launch down at Kennedy Space Center, who I did a training for last week. Anyway, but she was watching that, and the rocket, they started counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she said she decided that when she heard 1, she was going to jump out of bed. And she said she started training her brain to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you think 6. But if you get to 1 and you go blast off, that's where you take action on the thing that you know you should do. And so when you honor a higher thought, you do it. The moment you don't honor it, here's what happens. You start to betray the thought. And the moment you betray the thought, you must, this is how your brain works. You have to start justifying why you betrayed the thought. So immediately it drops you down from a highest thought, higher level, into a lower version of yourself, where you start to justify all the reasons why. Well, I'm not going to leave and go see my spouse at home and be with the kids because I've just got so much to do. Or I'm not going to eat healthier because this stuff just tastes so much better. I'm not going to call my spouse or my mom or whoever I need to call because whatever. These are things that happen. And the moment you betray it, your brain starts looking for all these excuses that give you a justification as to why you don't need to do it.
We're circling back now. We're talking about burnout, living a balanced life. How does this idea of honoring your higher thoughts play into avoiding burnout through having a balanced life?
Yeah. So when you do something that you know is right to do, how do you feel?
Good.
There you go. What does burnout feel like? Good or bad? There you go. So now you're infusing good shit into your life.
No, that's it.
Sorry, but you're infusing some better into your day versus it all sucks. And then you're focused on the problem, not on the solution. Because when you feel burnout, you're focused on the emotion of the burnout, not the solution on getting out of the burnout. You see, you're only focused on one thing at a time. And so if I'm doing something that I know is like a higher self version of me, and I do that, I get some good feeling infused into me. And the next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I'm going to honor that thought too. I'm going to do that. And now here's the weird part of it. You start having more creative energy flowing to you and through you. And I know, and what I've seen, and I'm sure you would agree with this, Jay, is that makes you better at whatever it is you're trying to do on your job. Absolutely. So, I did a training there's a company called the Mars Corporation, and I did a training with them. And one of the guys had a goal for Christmas. He said, I want to give away a bicycle for Christmas. He said, that's my goal. And I was like, man, and everybody in the room clapped because they were like, this is a great goal. And I was like, is it a great goal? And he was like, I think it is. And I said, how many people are in the room right now? There were like 300 people in the room. I said, how much is a bike at Walmart you want to give away? He's like, $79, maybe $80. Let's say $100. I was like, that's like 35 cents per person from everybody in this room to be able to give away one bike. I was like, could you raise $1 from everybody and give away 3 bikes? He's like, yeah. So what about $5 from everybody and give away like 10 bikes, whatever. And we pushed it. And what was interesting is as he started to think about what was possible by saying, hey, I can do something here more with what I feel than just keep thinking the way I've been thinking about it. It like infused this awesome energy into him and the people he was working with. And they sent me a picture. I don't even know how many bikes they gave away, but they sent me a picture at Christmas.
It bought out the bike section.
And it was like, that's it, man. They went in and bought it up because here's what happened, man. They allowed themselves to take some action and be creative versus just going, yeah, I think I'll do one bike and that would be good. It's like, yeah, I got it. But like, if you're being told you should give away a bike, maybe you should say, hey, well, is there a possibility I could give away 3? And what could I do to create that? And if you're doing that in things that are the higher thoughts, Jay, it infuses an energy that I think bleeds in or cascades. That's a word.
Burnout. It's putting more fuel in the tank, right?
Yeah. It puts the good fuel in the tank, man, because you can fill up the tank with low octane stuff. But if you're doing a higher thought thing and you see yourself doing it, you show up to the office and you're like, let's do this, baby. I'm feeling good. I worked out this morning. I knew I needed to. I feel good. Let's do this thing. It's a different element of energy, bud. I know burnout happens, but we can avoid it by doing better things that we know we need to do. That's creating the balance.
Next one.
So
thank you. Actions don't equal, and I had to look up how to do this don't equal thing. I got it. Don't equal result. Clear picture of the end goal. Permission to see today as the starting block, not a finish line, like you said. Why don't actions equal results, Ronnie? What the hell are we talking about? And
how many times have you ever taken action towards something that didn't work?
Times.
A lot. Yep. And is it easy to keep? What is the definition of insanity? Somebody give me that. Jay, what's the definition of insanity? Same action, right? Expecting something to be different. So action doesn't equal results. So here's a neat little analogy. If let's say I go to the gym. It's easy to use gym, physical effort. Everybody knows what physical effort looks like. Mental effort's a little different, but the physical component of working out. Let's say I went to the gym, Jay, and I just grabbed 25-pound dumbbells, and I grabbed one for each hand, and I stand there for an hour just doing biceps, right? And then somebody asked me, Ronnie, did you work out today? I'm like, oh yeah, I worked out, man.
I look like Popeye.
I was tired when I was done. Like, for real? Look at that. Yeah, did you work out? Absolutely, you did. Could you go back to the gym and grab the dumbbells again tomorrow and do the same thing? If you could pick up, your arms probably be sore, but you pick them up again and you do the same thing. Somebody goes, hey, did you work out today? You're like, I absolutely did. I crushed it today. Awesome. Third day, same deal. Fourth day, same deal. It sounds good because you worked out. That's action. But the result is you're completely out of balance.
Busy work. Just
your
busy
core is
work.
not strong.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Action. Sometimes, guys, we got to be willing to look at our actions and go, has this led me to being progressively closer to the outcome that I desire or not? Because if it's not, then I've got to be willing to adjust the action. And when you see yourself adjusting, let me give you a little insight on it, Jay. I've done so many leadership talks. My wife and I were talking about this today. I've done thousands of leadership talks, and sometimes I've talked about the same topic many times because that's what's asked for, right? Do you know that when I'm going to talk about the same topic, but if I do some time studying the topic even more, I can infuse new things into that topic. Do you know I get excited about talking about the topic versus just reciting it the same way that I always have? It just takes a little bit of adjustment to it. And I'm like, man, this is a different way of expressing this topic. It's exciting. You're doing the same thing, but you're bringing something better to it. And so just doing the same thing is not going to produce a great result. You got to be willing to adjust. And if not,
and it's
you are going to
right.
burn
And
out.
you're circling all the way back to the beginning where you could be busy doing things. But if you're not working smart, if you don't keep a clear picture of your end goal and keep reevaluating where you're at, you're just in the gym working your biceps and wondering why you don't look, well-rounded and muscular or whatever. It's like your shoulders are bad and your back's bad and your legs are weak. And you're like, but I've been busy. I've been in the gym every day. It's like, you're only working your damn biceps.
Dude, I got one calf muscle that looks incredible. I've been working my left.
Right.
But check this out, Jay. Let me
working smart.
So everybody knows that this is a really working smart. But listen, this is something really important too. Albert Einstein, when he was a professor, they said he gave the same test to his students for 20 years. Same test. Now check this out. This is what's so cool. Some people started picking up on it, that even other professors, like, this is the same test. You know what was so cool? One of them came to him and said, Mr. Einstein, why are you giving the same test to your students? They said, does that really serve a purpose? And his answer was profound. You know what he said? He said, the reason I give the same test is because the answers are always changing. Pretty profound. The answers are always changing. The different is out there. But if you keep doing it the way that you're doing it, like in the world now with innovation, things are changing. They are. But you can't keep doing the same thing that you've been doing. It doesn't necessarily equate to success. What was a good idea 3 years ago might not be a great idea today.
I get it. I'm with you 100%.
Tracking with me on this one. Yeah. So
it's like what you said about the printing
It's called
press.
Innovation, man.
Like, you could be working your ass off, build the best
curiosity
printing press in the world, but people aren't buying magazines and newspapers. You're working hard. You have a work ethic, but you're going to fail. You're working hard. You're not working smart. And then you wonder, why the hell am I so burned out? Because you're not getting anywhere. You're like a truck stuck in the mud. It's spinning its wheels like crazy. There's smoke and mud and stuff flying everywhere. But you wonder why you don't have fulfillment from the purpose that you sensed in your life. You have to work smart. You have to look for ways, the higher thoughts, to reignite the passion about what you're doing. And I think that's a good segue into the next one, Ronnie. It's about being overwhelmed when you're not in the present. About angry about the past, anxious about the future. You're unhappy. You're spinning your tires. You're thinking about the past. You're offended. You're angry. You're pissed off or whatever. Or you're stressed out about the future. How am I going to pay these bills? When am I going to get that promotion? When am I going to be a pro gamer? You're living everywhere but in the present. And then you wonder why you're overwhelmed.
So let's equate this to, because I love the marketplace, and we want Rewired Gaming to be about making people better at the games, making them better at life, making them better in the jobs they have, whatever. I think it's about all of it, because whatever a person does, they take real fundamental principles and apply it to where they're at. It can make them better where they're at. When I go to talk to a team, I tell them, I'm like, guys, you do your job really, really well. I'm gonna do what I do really well. And it's going to help you to do what you do better, but you got to be willing to do the work to do better. And so the idea is that we have to take full on responsibility for where we're at in the present moment and do something with it, versus like being offended. Jay, let me tell you guys this. I'm going to tell you one of the things that helped me so much in doing leadership talks in front of lots of people. I had to decide I was never going to be offended. Meaning I didn't give somebody the power to offend me, because I don't take someone else's opinion. I don't make that more important than my state of being.
Really powerful.
So if you
stuff.
think
that's
you're gonna,
really powerful stuff. I want you to say that again.
It's like being
in my
embarrassed.
opinion, offense and people being offended is one of the biggest problems on the whole planet. So I want you to say that again.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So when you choose to not be offended, what you're saying is that another person's opinion does not have the power over your emotional state of being. And so if somebody offends me, what they've done is they've triggered something within me that's not resolved. So it would be like you saying something to me about my marriage. Like you're like, your marriage is whatever. And I'd be like, there's nothing you're going to say about my marriage that's going to throw me off, because I know my marriage. There's nothing that you can say about me that I haven't thought before about myself and have made myself okay with it. Like
we have
like
a phrase in
because
gaming,
I've
and
thought.
you know, it's living in someone's head rent free. And when you're offended, someone says something or tweets something or does something or whatever, and you're just all offended by it, that person's basically living in your head rent free. They might not even know they're living there. You're sitting there dwelling on it. You're offended by whatever the situation is. The phrase we have in gaming is just rent free, man. That person's just living in your head. You've opened the door and let them live rent free in your head, and they're off living their life.
Yeah, and that person, all right. So for a fact to live on, the only way a fact can live on is in the idea that we hold toward it. So the fact is they did something. If I hold the idea that I am offended at that, then I continue to be offended only because I hold the idea. The fact that that happened is in the past. It went on. But if I hold the idea that this offends me, this offends me, this offends me, then I stay offended. So let me give you this, Jay. When somebody comes to a training that I do and they talk about something and they say something like offended, and I say, so that offended you? And they say, yes. And then I'll go, congratulations. And like, congratulations for what? And I'll say, because you found what you were looking for. Well, how so? Because if you didn't want to be offended, if you didn't take it as something that offended you, then that's not what you would lock onto. But you need to be offended to be right about what offense looks like to you. And you can navigate that by saying, hey, wait a minute, this person has absolutely zero control here. And you can start to navigate through these old emotional barricades that are almost like they're unhealed, these wounds within us that we keep carrying. And it's so easy to be offended let's like Jason, if you said something about me and I'm like, I can't believe Jason would say that about me. It's ruining my self-image. No, your self-image is how you see you. But typically what we do is we decide how we see us based on how we think other people see us. And so then that way they're controlling our self-image. Jay, I'll tell you, there's nothing you can say to me to offend me. Why? I matured past it a long time ago. I just did.
Yep.
And I'm way healthier.
And why is this important? Circling back so we stay on track. Why is this, what we're talking about right now, important to avoiding burnout?
Because if you allow other people and circumstances outside of you, what you think the future is supposed to look like that you can't control, yesterday that happened that doesn't look how you thought it was supposed to, you're never in the present moment. You wind up, it's one of the quotes that you wind up mourning a tomorrow that hasn't even gotten here yet. And so you're always in this state of unhappiness because you're already projecting so far out there that it already doesn't look how you thought it's supposed to look. So you're caught up in this prediction of the future and that what it's going to mean to you. And the truth of the matter is nothing has to mean anything in the present moment. When you remove all the labels from everything and simply get present, that's where you start to create versus reacting to all this knowing of what you think everything means to everybody else. I'm not worried about what everything means to everybody else. I got to learn to control what Ronnie thinks about things. And if I can get control of that, then dude, I'm not at the mercy of all these interpretations that I have and the mercy of the interpretations everybody else has. I get control back. And that's a really cool place to be because now I can fashion the future I want versus reacting to something I think is going to happen. It's not going to be good.
And we're in the present. And we're not angry about the past. We're not anxious about the future. But we're using our end goal in whatever part of our life, work, whatever it might be. Process versus prize is something you told me to type in here, and I'm curious what you mean about that.
So when you're in process, you're doing the thing that it needs to get done, right? Yeah, you trust the process, right? And here's how I heard it one time. Maybe the grind of the process is the gift. So maybe the grind is the gift. And how so? Well, if I'm in the grind, I'm learning things about me. Now in the grind, while I'm pushing hard, doing it how I used to do it to try and prove something, I could go, wait a minute, this doesn't feel really good. I don't like how I talk to myself. I don't like how I'm feeling. I don't like what I'm creating. So the grind gives you a gift of saying, well, wait a minute, is there a way that I could still do this grind work without it totally sabotaging me emotionally? Is there something I could create, some narrative that I could choose to speak to myself internally that could serve me in having peace while I'm doing this thing called the grind? Well, absolutely. It's like when you've been doing something for 3 years and you're complaining about it. It's like people don't think about how they felt when they first started and they got
First
the
day,
job
last
or
day.
the opportunity that they were so grateful for. First day, last day. Nobody thinks that way. And so the process, man, if you fall in love with the process, the prize eventually happens. And again, if it doesn't happen, you're okay because you've fallen in love with the process. Like painting. Like if you were just painting pictures to make money and never fell in love with painting,
Be burned out.
that'd be miserable. You could do anything, you get burned out. But if you fall in love with painting, if you fall in love with the art, if you fall in love with the expression of the art, then dude,
Right.
it's like you don't work a lot. It's like you're doing what you love. You're not working a lot. Now you got to pay the bills. You got to do what you got to do until you do what you want to do. But like when you're doing something from this place of really creating from something that you're excited about, like the art part of it, man, it takes time. There's a story of Picasso that he was in a cafe. I think it was in France. He's in a cafe and a woman saw him doodling like on a napkin and he was drawing some picture and the woman recognized him. And she said, I see what you're doodling there. She said, I'll buy it from you. And he said, it's $15,000. And the woman goes, you're crazy. $15,000. You just did it. It only took you like 5 minutes. He goes, no, this took me 60 years to be able to do this because he'd been painting his whole life.
Right. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
however long it was. You see what I'm saying? It's like if you're in the process, dude, the prize, you're going to create the prize at some point. But most people are trying to get to the prize before they fall in love with the process. But fall in love with writing, fall in love with reading, fall in love with the process of exercising, fall in love with getting healthy. And then the good stuff starts to show up for you versus chasing stuff
Right.
down, So the prize is awesome. It will come. But the process is the gift, man. The process is the richness of it, man. The process is like slowing down to smell the flowers. Like not trying to get to the end of the trail. When I go hiking, it's like, man, we hike 15, 20 miles in a weekend, sometimes more. It's like you're like, man, we're coming out here to hike and get away. But then you start hiking and you're like, man, I got to get to the end of the trail. It's like, what are you doing? Why don't you just drive to the end of the trail if you're trying to get to the end of the trail? Slow down and enjoy the process.
It's a great analogy.
Dude, that's a different way of thinking, man. And I had to get that in my own life to start enjoying my life, dude. Or else I'm always grinding for somebody else or some prize that might.
All right. As always on
done.
this show, we try to give you some action steps. Pull out your pencils if you haven't already. These are some fairly simple things you can do if you're experiencing burnout in your life. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list. We don't hold ourselves out to be, the purveyors of all human wisdom. I do this show to try to help people because I get asked these questions in gaming year in and year out. And I hope these are some action items that you can take if you followed us along this far. Number one, identify what you can do during downtime to improve your uptime. Okay? Exercise, visualization, meditation, rest, reading, friends, etc. You have to be okay with resting. So we're identifying what to do during our downtime that can improve our uptime at work or on stage or whatever you might be doing. You have to be okay with resting.
Mm-hmm. It's the missing component. Now, let me tell you why. Some people think if I rest, it means I'm lazy. Old phrase, rest is not the opposite of work. It's an investment into better work, right? It's an investment into better work. If I want to do better playing a game, I want to do better at speaking, I want to do better at performing in athletics or whatever, I have to allow my body some rest. It's like it washes your brain. And so many people are like, I just got to grind. And it taps them out, dude. They're empty. And when you get empty, man, and you don't have any of the good chemicals because you're just grinding out all the time and not resting, your perspective on what you're doing is probably more than likely going to be pretty negative. I don't know about you, Jay, but I can be very critical of myself when I'm tired. And so maybe the tiredness is an indicator. Maybe it's your brain going, hey, you should rest. I read a quote not long ago that said, if rest or sleep is not necessary, it's the greatest mistake evolution ever made. Because you know what I'm saying? It's like we say, well, I got to sleep. It's not a mistake. You have to have it. Rest makes you better. And that's what you can do sometimes in your downtime. Now, not just rest, sleep. Exercising is a form of rest in a way. It's giving something to your body that's healthier. You're breathing deeper. You're getting oxygen. That's a form of rest. There's all these different things we can talk about, but you got to do something that nourishes you. If you don't, you're going to be empty, and people can look at you and tell, like, this person is run ragged, and there's something about them. Like, I don't like, this is just me, my preference. I have a hard time spending time with people that haven't learned to honor themselves and honor their body and take care of themselves, because I know how easy it is for me to think that way and get into that grind and drinking too many caffeine drinks, too much sugar, too much garbage, too much sugary foods, whatever, and not being I've been around it, and I know how easy it is to be that. And so that's an energy, and you got to, anyway. So the rest part, the downtime, what are you doing during downtime?
And I try to
make you
explain
better
to some
during your
people
uptime?
that I work with and alongside and whose paths I cross, where they feel that to be effective at their job or to be a good soldier or whatever phrase you want to come up with, they've just got to be on the job or working on the job all the time. And I'm like, if you want to be effective at your job, you want to be quote unquote a good soldier or whatever phrase you want to use, every moment of your day needs to be strategic. Sometimes I might go lay on the raft in the pool for an hour and a half on a Saturday when I got work lined up, because I know what's going to best suit me and make me the best CEO I can be is getting a little sun and just staring at the clouds and just chilling out and relaxing. Sometimes I'll book my workouts for 10 in the morning. It's on my schedule. I'll go over to Cowboys Fit down at the Star, and I find that is the most effective time in my calendar. People are like, where you going? I'm going to the gym. I'll be back. Because that is something I built into my calendar, because I know me, and if I'm not healthy, and if I'm not taking care of myself, it's going to eventually pass off into my work, whether it's burnout or agitation or just a lack of energy or whatever it is. So these things in balance are intentional. Like, I know if I'm not investing into my marriage and into my children, that's, my job is not why I do that. But I know if I'm not, and those relationships become strained, I'm going to be less at my job. Everything's going to get under my skin if I'm arguing with my wife or my kids are going astray. Everything that might just be, hey, we got this, no wonder, might cause me to blow up if I'm not intentionally building a balanced life. You have to be okay with resting. You have to be okay with building these things into your life, because it will make you more successful. It will make you happier at your job. It will help you avoid burnout, but it doesn't happen on accident. Like you said, you don't find it. You have to build it.
Create it. Yeah. And another thing, Jay, then I know that we didn't put this on the list there. I'm not even looking at it, but my mind is like a vault. Remember that, everybody. It locks. I know what we're going to talk about, but one of the things I didn't put in there is, and you touched on it, is that to really be successful, avoid burnout, you need to plan your day before it starts. One of the things that happens when we're in burnout mode is we're just kind of feel like we're just reacting, taking it as it comes. Reacting. Everything's coming at us at once. Reacting. Yeah. Plan my day before I start it. That means I write out some things I know I can attack early, build some momentum. These are non-negotiable things. Those help a ton. And I touched on it earlier today too, and this isn't on the list, but you really want to help to avoid some burnout and some of the negativity. You said some great words there. You got to identify the things that hijack your schedule. So these busy things that hijack your schedule, and you wind up doing all these things, but not the main things. And the main things that you do, when you do them well, that's what gives you the best reward. It's ROI. And so when things hijack your schedule, so planning your day, Jim Rohn used to say it like this. He'd say, never start your day until you've finished it. Meaning you need to know in your mind what you want the outcome to be. Like we talked about earlier, action doesn't equal result. You got to know that end result and you build towards that. So don't start your day till you've finished it, planned out what you'd like to create, structure it, and then jump onto it.
Absolutely.
So I know we're
absolutely.
Your
Number 2, be intentional about allocating downtime. And you had me put these two in here, and I don't even know what the heck these are. Mad scientist syndrome and spotlight syndrome.
All right, let's do it. Let me give you these really quick. Mad scientist. I mentioned Einstein. I like studying Einstein, Tesla, Edison, all these guys. We hear the term like mad scientist. It's like somebody could be like, I'm a mad gamer, man. Like I got the control with me all the time. Even when I go potty, I'm like in the bathroom taking a poop and I'm playing a game. I don't stop. It never stops. I eat, sleep, gaming. It's like, okay, you got the mad scientist syndrome. Well, let me tell you about the mad scientists, the ones that have came up with the greatest ideas. They were known for relaxing, vacations, nature walks, naps. When I learned that, set me free. Because then I was like, okay, and it's the old phrase, sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to leave the problem or to step away from it. And sometimes when you're in burnout mode, all you can look at is how you're feeling. And the feeling becomes this new problem to solve instead of being creative, pouring good energy into the problem that needs to be solved. Right. And so that's the mad scientist part of it. The spotlight part of it, this is the world. And for many of us, we think that people need to know everything that we're doing. And for me, like when I travel somewhere and go speak somewhere, I used to be like, man, I need to let everybody know that I'm traveling. I'm speaking to, whoever. Like I'm going to do a training for complexity. I need everybody in the world to know I'm doing that, which I'm very proud of that. But dude, you know how many thousands of events that I've done that I've not posted that I was there doing that? Like, it's like when you're so afraid that everybody needs to know what you're doing, you feel like a spotlight is on you. You can never rest. Like you're laying in the bed thinking about the spotlight's on me. I need to post something so everybody knows.
God forbid my boss knows, that I took a nap on a Saturday. Or
yeah, man. Right. I need to put something out there so they know
your business.
That spotlight. So mad scientists and spotlight. Dude, it's like, be okay not letting everybody know your business. Like people just, honest to God, Jay, people just don't care as much as you think they do. Think about how many people are posting something that they really care about. And you're so used to just blowing through social media, scrolling past stuff. Like you don't even see it. And people are like so concerned with it. So the spotlight idea is that sometimes you have to be willing, and I know this is on there, you unplug the light. Like you got to turn the light off for a minute. Like anyway, wonderful things can happen sometimes.
Absolutely
silent.
non-negotiable,
like
unplugged time. Silence is a solution. If you're experiencing burnout, I want you to think about
sometimes
this. Non-negotiable, unplugged.
You say, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. This is one of the favorite phrases of those that are burned out. I just don't have time. Bull crap. You do have time. You just haven't made time. So what you don't make time for, you don't find time for. So you got to make some time. And let me tell you, what will give you the greatest amount of return is some quiet, unplugged time. You said you lay out by the pool on Saturday, Jay. Let me just tell you this, right? Like I rest a lot by my pool. I smoke a cigar a lot. I do that. Why? Because I have no choice but to relax for a minute. And do you know, a lot of times when I'm relaxed, I get way better ideas about how to be more creative for the future and innovative than if I'm just sitting here beating my head against my desk in my studio or in my office. My wife comes in sometimes, she's like, baby, you can leave the office. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking. She's like, you got to get out of here. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And I step out of the office, go sit by the pool, I go for a walk, I play whatever, and ideas start coming. And so this is why, Jay, here's another thing too with burnout, guys. If you're going to get ideas, good ideas come and go, just so you know what they do. But I would recommend write them down. Like have something beside your bed, have something in your car, like all these different things. Write these things down, because a good idea that you don't write down.
Yeah, man, some of the best ideas I've ever had in my life. I get laying, like before I fall asleep, before I wake up middle of the night, and I'm sitting there thinking. And I learned the hard way when I was young. Like you better grab your phone and type them out or write it out or whatever, because snatch that idea out of the air and write it down, because it'll go poof by the morning. It's gone.
Oh, it's gone. It's the old saying, a short pencil is better than a long memory. And you take something and you put it down. And sometimes you got to be rested for that, man. Like you guys, everybody listen to this, please hear me. I'm going to speak to someone. You got to put the controller down and pick up some creativity and some infusion of excitement into your life. Being creative, doing things anyway, there's so many little games we could play here on what I know we're going to keep talking about, some the accountability with it, and know and have somebody to help with support. But there's so much to that. But go ahead and I know you want to hit our pillars here.
Very important. It's an action step.
Yep.
Number 3, I like this one.
Yep.
Create a reward system for yourself. This is avoiding burnout.
Here could be one. Like if you know that you're burned out. Yep. Avoiding burnout. If you know you're feeling burned out, and you know there's something else that you need to do, right? then you need to reward yourself when you do the other thing that you know that you need to do. And so if there's something that you're like, hey, I need to clean my room, like, that's something that needs to get done. Like, if I can get my room clean and clean my room 3 times this week, I'm going to reward myself with something. Maybe it's a trip down to Starbucks. Maybe it's something that you do for you. It's kind of a little reward. But these things can infuse a different sense of creativity and accountability into you, and responsibility, because you're rewarding yourself. One of the hardest things to do, guys, is like when a baseball player gets into a slump, they haven't had a hit in so long that it starts to mess with their mind. And they're like, am I ever going to get a hit? Is it ever going to work out for me? Is it ever going to go good? Is something ever going to turn in my favor? You have to shine the small trophies. John Wooden used to say, the small trophies are just as big as the big ones, and the little rewards for yourself. Now, this is something, Jay, little side component to this on the burning out thing. You can't just do everything you want to do all the time, because then nothing means anything to you. And so when you develop discipline, it's like a budget. A budget gives you freedom. Same thing with accounting your time and what you do with it. If you can start saying, hey, I'm not just going to play games all the time, no matter what. Like, I'm going to reward myself and say, hey, I'm going to be able to play X amount of hours after I get done on these other things. This is kind of the reward. You're training your brain to mesh the two together to where you're not completely out of balance. And so there's this reward kind of a thing that goes on. And when you operate with that, it activates the reward center, oddly enough, of your brain. And that's a very powerful part of your brain that helps you to move to the next thing. And so anyway, I'm done.
We're cruising. We're cruising.
I can talk on it.
Number 4.
Cruising, baby.
Results
Cruising.
Require reflection. Review what you've experienced.
So I did a talk last week and a half ago in Atlanta. There are 300-400 people there. Awesome conference. And I did this talk, and I did a morning session. And after the morning session, a little later in the day, I went upstairs. Jay, I sat down there and I wrote out things that I did well, things that I thought landed really well, that I thought connected really well. And I also addressed things that didn't go well, that I could have done better with, things I could have avoided. And I take those things by reflecting, and I refine the next talk that I'm going to do. You see, guys, if you think that just playing the game always makes you better, it will to an extent. But if you can reflect on how you played, yes, and pull some lessons from it and say, hey, I won't want to do that again, and use those as a grounding list before you get started. It's hard you can't refine what you don't reflect on. And so it's important to reflect. And so you can reflect on your day. I was coaching a team today, and I said, hey guys, here's something neat for reflection. When you get in the car and you're driving home after work, hold yourself accountable to like the first 5 minutes of your drive, thinking about your day and what worked well and what didn't. And how are you going to do something differently tomorrow when you come in? Like that's reflection creates this refinement, because it's hard to refine something if you don't know what worked and what didn't.
My simplistic analogies again. You got your big truck stuck in a whole bunch of mud and you're just spinning your tires. You know what? That gets real old. That type of situation, of course, it's an analogy in your life, that leads to burnout. But if you take a minute and you think and you're like, oh, hey, I got these chains or whatever, and I put these on the tires, we're going to try a little bit different. Now you're getting forward momentum. But if you just sit in whatever situation you're doing, you don't take time to reflect and look for pivots and look to improve and look to always refine what you're doing, you just get stuck in a rut. And if you feel like you're stuck in a rut, you're just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and then you wonder, why in the hell am I burned out? You might only be working 40 hours a week and you're burned out. Ask yourself, am I stuck in a rut? Am I reviewing my results? Am I always reflecting on my experience, and how can I improve a little bit each day? If you're always looking for those little improvements, it's a lot harder to get burned out. Find the chains, put them on the tires. Don't just sit there and spin your wheels and wonder why you're burned out.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln, it was a quote from him. He said if he was given 8 hours to cut down a tree, he said he'd spend the first 2 hours sharpening his axe. Right. And sometimes it's like we're trying to take down a tree with a baseball bat.
And you wonder why you're burned out.
It's like, no, maybe we need to sharpen it a little bit. Why? You're tired. You're not using the tools you have well. And so reflection, like you really decide to reflect on some things and make some small improvements to how you're doing, you're going to get better, and you'll know you're making progress. And when you feel you're making progress, you don't feel as burned out, dude. Like you just don't. When you know you're making progress, it's exciting. Do you know there's sometimes people that I've worked with people, Jason, who have lost 30, 40 pounds and they've wanted to lose weight and they lost the weight and they're like 30 and 40 pounds and they feel like they're stuck in a rut. Like they just don't feel inspired anymore. But then I meet somebody who's just, they're like, man, I started this new diet thing and exercise for like 2 weeks. I'm down like 6, 7 pounds and they're so excited, dude. And it's like, how is that possible? I got somebody over here who's lost 40 pounds, who's kind of like pissed off and burned out. You lost 7 and you're like all excited. This is just looking at what we've done and how we're done it well and how we're going to keep making adjustments to the approach, man. And it keeps things exciting. You're not tapped out and burnt out.
And you know, this isn't on the notes. Yeah. We're here at the end of the notes, but something, you know, I had a higher thought, Ronnie. You got a minute for a higher thought?
Give it. I am in it. I want
burnout is seriously a real problem in our industry. And, you know, this is obviously a show, hopefully with life lessons that can help anybody, but it's directed to our gamers, right? Towards our esports community. And I want to speak from my heart on this. You know, I know what burnout is like, and I've been around people that have experienced severe burnout. The one thing I've found that they miss, and this is not in the notes, it was just a higher thought I guess I have, is you have to keep perspective on life and what's important. If you are, you know, no one encourages passion and hunger and desire and how they go about what they do in the esports industry than, but you need perspective. Okay, you know, I see people working 120 hours a week and just grinding for this esports dream, and they lose all perspective on the basics of life, being healthy, having relationships, falling in love, finding joy, seeking beauty. Don't let the esports industry consume you to the point where you lose perspective on what really matters. It goes back to what we talked about earlier in the show, balance. Everything from your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual sides of your life, your relations, and your life. Keep perspective on what's truly important. You know, we mentioned this, I believe, in a previous episode. You know, when they interview people that are terminally ill and they're near death, no one ever says, I wish I'd worked more. I wish I just put that extra few thousand hours in at the office. No. It's always, I wish I could have spent more time with my kids, or more time with my spouse, or more time with my brother, or more time with my uncle, whatever it might be. Working hard and having work ethic is very, very important to fulfillment in life and finding your true potential. But you've got to keep perspective. You got to keep perspective. Anyway, end rant by the old man. That's all I got, Ronnie.
Well, dude, it's valuable. I can give all these great insights and we can share this wisdom, bud. But if we don't keep the right perspective on all of it, like it doesn't matter. Like you can have all the greatest gifts in the world in front of you, the most awesome resources. But if you can't see them for what they are as a gift to you that you can utilize to enrich your life, you become blind to them. And if you're blind to it, it doesn't matter what's in front of you. Like you just don't see it. And the old saying, it's so old and it's so true though. And I'm realizing I'm 45, I'm getting it. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I feel like I just was 20.
Goes fast.
I mean, you know, it goes by so quick. But there's the old saying, man, is you spend all your health trying to get money. And then you get to the end and you spend all your money trying to get your health. And it's like, maybe I want to finish this game of life feeling as good as I did when I started. And so I want to build for that. I want to think of this as a marathon. Yes. I don't want to think of this as I jump in, I sprint hard today and that's it. It's like, no, give yourself, be patient with you. Be patient with you. Be patient with the process. Hell, just enjoy the process. Like if you love video games, love playing them, but too much of anything is no longer a good thing. You have to be in moderation with you're out of balance. And when you're out of balance, it's like it takes a lot more effort to get you back into balance than if you would have made the small adjustments along the way. And, you know, we think of things like a speedboat. You're riding down the water at 80 miles an hour, a speedboat, you can flip it around and you go the other direction. It's not that big of a deal. But like a cruise ship, you got all these people on it. They turn that thing really slow because you're not throwing everybody overboard. And so you have to be considerate of all the other things that are going on. It's not just about the creating the change in a moment that's going to last forever. It's about taking the steps towards the change. And I've said it so many times, change is a process. It is not a one-time event. Rarely does one thing change your life forever. You know, if it's something worth having, it's worth doing and doing and doing until you get it right. And there's a process to it. So be patient and kind to yourself. Like, it's like, what are you trying to prove? Like, you're enough. Know you're loved. Know that you are awesome and you were created for purpose. Know that you have all these great gifts and abilities. If you stand in that, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. It's like, prove yourself to you and create balance so you can prove to yourself that you can create balance. Don't keep running from it. And I think when we do that, man, the experiences that we have and the life that we have is much richer. And it would be a shame to get to the end of it and only realize that at the very end. So hopefully when people are watching this and listening to this, it's just helping some small adjustments. Take some of these principles and apply them. Don't just waste an hour and a half on the show and not do anything with it. Don't waste your time. Take something, reflect on it, apply it, see some change, give yourself time for change, and you're going to keep growing. And that's exciting. That's exciting. Life's a gift. Don't take it for granted.
100%, my friend. 100%.
Yeah, man.
With that, we're going to end the YouTube video.
It's
Please
awesome, bud.
click subscribe. We're reading your comments. Thank you to people that are leaving comments. Let us know what you think about the show. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about. Let us know if you've been following this series. We're going to do the after show live on Twitch. It's also at Jason BW Lake. We film this live on Twitch, and then we post to YouTube. So if you find it on YouTube, you want to join us for the live show, watch our Twitters. We always tweet out, and we'll see you there. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for episode 5. Peace out. Thanks.
All right. See you guys. Bye.